What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited to continue our training camp preview series here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Make sure you do subscribe in case this is your first time here. First of all, welcome. Second of all, what took you so long? But we've been going position by position on the Dallas Cowboys roster in the lead up to training camp because we're obviously very excited. Got about 3 weeks to go until the team touches down in Oxnard, California. We've been going from offense to defense, back and forth, kind of playing a little bit of jump rope, keep things interesting, keep things fun, keep them exciting. And today we are talking about the middle of the defensive line. That's right, the interior Dallas Cowboys defensive tackles. Now, very quick thing before we get started. In case you are unaware, we have a podcast with one of the greatest Dallas Cowboys defensive tackles ever. Tony Casillas won 2 Super Bowls with the team in the 90s. You can hear myself and Tony every Tuesday on the 750 on the Blogging the Boys podcast network. So make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You get access to the 750 as well as all of our wonderful shows here at Blogging the Boys. Let's take a look at the Dallas Cowboys defensive tackles. Now, 2 things because they're important, because we get questions about them. Number 1, these names are sorted alphabetically. All right, don't come for us saying, hey, how do you have this guy there, blah, 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 blah. Second thing, because there is some roster confusion sometimes, we like to keep things as symmetrical as possible. I know that word doesn't make sense here, but we go based off of DallasCowboys.com. We go based off the word of the team, so we classify players based on the way the Dallas Cowboys have on their team website. That's why you don't see Carlos Watkins here. They classify him as a defensive end. But Quinton Bohanna obviously stands out. Osa Odighizuwa stands out. We're going to talk about him in a little bit here. Neville Gallimore stands out. Trysten Hill. John Ridgeway is already a fan favorite despite having never played a snap in the NFL, never played a snap for the Dallas Cowboys. So let's go ahead and talk about John Ridgeway because I think that he is arguably the rookie that that maybe most people are excited for. I know that's maybe a weird way to put it, but I think if you gauged your average Dallas Cowboys fan, and if I asked you, right, and maybe you want to leave a comment down below, that'd be cool. Rookies that you're excited for. I think maybe number 1 would be Jalen Tolbert, and we'll talk about him when we come to wide receivers, but Jalen Tolbert might have the highest level of excitement around him. Now, maybe you're more excited about Sam Williams, but I think a lot of people are excited about John Ridgeway because even though he was a later pick, he kind of embodies what we're hoping changes on the Dallas Cowboys. It's not a secret that this team got run over by the San Francisco 49ers and, was lacking a bit of an edge over the second half of last season. Certainly in the playoffs, that was obviously a big reason why they lost. People throw out a lot of kind of football cliches, football terms, glass eater, right? You want those rough and tough people who are going to be a little bit more willing to go the distance than maybe other players. And John Ridgeway seems like somebody who the Cowboys were interested in. Obviously, he's an Arkansas Razorback, so, you got your classic Dallas Cowboys storyline in that sense, but he seems like somebody who is a bit of a different attitude than what they've had in the past. And I think we're all excited about that. I know that's something that Tony Casillas has talked about on the 750. Ridgeway is we have to, I think, measure expectations. I don't know that we have to temper them, but we have to measure them relative to where he was drafted, right? This isn't, a top 20 pick, top 10 pick, top 5 pick coming in here day one. It wouldn't be because the Dallas Cowboys don't prioritize the interior of the defensive line that way. But ultimately, I do think that he is going to be somebody who does the dirty work. I think we've all kind of had defensive tackles that we've loved over the past, right? The Dallas Cowboys have just kind of had those dudes that come in and play that role. And I think that they've really been missing the tenacity or the call it anger or hunger, whatever, to do that dirty work since Tyrone Crawford retired. I know Tyrone fell out of a lot of favor with a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans, but he was somebody who was willing to do that dirty work all over the defensive line, which is why he was so beloved, team captain, things like that. So I think that Ridgeway comes in, maybe not right away and exemplifies that, but certainly makes his mark known sooner rather than later. Let's go ahead, though, to Osa Odighizuwa, who I've said this before, both on our podcast and here on the channel. If not for Micah Parsons, I think Osa Odighizuwa would have been a household name throughout the 2021 season. He, you can make an argument that he was the defensive rookie of the year outside of Micah Parsons. He was awesome. Now, his season wasn't as epic as Micah, wasn't as consistent either, but, Osa Odighizuwa came in and played really, really well, and I think we're all really excited to see that jump from year 1 to year 2. Obviously, that jump under Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn has talked a lot about in the past defensive tackles he's worked with, and not to compare one player to another, but that jump is necessary, and I think we didn't get that jump necessarily with Neville Gallimore, and I love Neville Gallimore. I think we were starting to see it early on, and obviously the way things unfolded opened the door of possibility for Osa Odighizuwa to kind of come in and shine, and so everything kind of worked out for the better good. But the fact that Neville Gallimore, not that he's an afterthought, but that he's no longer like the name we run to, the name we flock to when it comes to the defensive tackles on the Dallas Cowboys roster, I think speaks to the depth of this position. And I think that that's something that isn't really talked about. When we look at positions on the Dallas Cowboys, defensive tackle is one that like I said a little while ago, gets a little bit made fun of because the Cowboys don't place a lot of priority on it, right? They don't spend value picks. They don't spend premium resources. The Cowboys love to kind of just find these journeymen, your Jason Hatchers of the world. And if they do spend something, it's because of different reasons, different circumstances, and they try to get somebody on a bit of a bargain. Henry Melton, Cedric Thornton. I mean, we're talking about players that weren't really seismic at that time in the NFL when the Cowboys brought them in. And so, they trust their own in-house development system. And I think Neville Gallimore's on that path. I think Osa Odighizuwa's on that path. But I think, it was 2 years ago. We were really excited because Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe were coming in, and that was going to really, set things up along the middle of the Cowboys defensive line. And obviously Gerald McCoy got hurt, and that was so terrible, and Dontari Poe didn't really live up to expectations. And so that kind of, again, I think we don't talk about this, that kind of reset things, that kind of set the Cowboys at ground zero, and they kind of had to really pick up and start over. Now, they were fortunate that they had, at the time, a rookie Neville Gallimore, but, they have found guys along the way, except for the highest resource that they've placed on the defensive tackle, because Neville Gallimore was a third-round pick, Osa Odighizuwa the third-round pick. We're talking about John Ridgeway, a day 3 pick, but the highest resource that the Cowboys have spent on a defensive tackle as of late is the third player we're going to be talking about here, and this swings the conversation just a little bit negative, but we're, of course, talking about Trysten Hill. Now, Trysten Hill entering a contract here with the Dallas Cowboys, second-round pick in 2019. But what makes that distinction a little bit more interesting than usual wasn't just a second-round pick, but was the team's first selection. You will recall that in 2019, the Cowboys did not have a first-round pick because they had traded it away for Amari Cooper the year prior, and it was extremely well telegraphed that they wanted Trysten Hill. And it was extremely well telegraphed that Rod Marinelli wanted Trysten Hill. And I also think that we don't give Trysten enough credit for how well he was playing in 2020. That's not to say that he was awesome or amazing, but he was hurt and lost for the season towards ACL the same game that Dak Prescott went down against the New York Giants, and it did kind of seem like he had figured things out. He obviously had all the attitude, conversations, and rumors that swirled around him throughout his rookie season, and none of that is good, but time is really running out here. And, this training camp preview series that we've been doing, it's mostly been, with an optimistic sort of twist and an optimistic sort of flavor, and I don't mean to spin it negative or to say that there's negative things going on here, but this is probably the first player that we've isolated to talk about for a little bit here throughout this series that may not make the team, right? If you think about all of the players on the Cowboys roster when it comes to defensive tackle, let's get that up here for you. I mean, could you not see them preferring, Markaviest, Bryant, and maybe taking a chance there, right? Could you not? I mean, everybody there, I think you can talk yourself into more than Trysten Hill. Trysten Hill has the disadvantage of not being somebody who this coaching staff drafted, so therefore he's from a different regime, not somebody they're connected to. And so I do think that he could be a name that we ultimately see maybe as a part of, roster cuts when they trim down to the 53-man roster. But all told, I do think that this is a group that we can feel pretty good about. And again, you can kind of lump Carlos Watkins in there, but he's not there because, again, of the way the team website classifies him and whatnot. But ultimately here, I think that if we're evaluating the depth of each position group on the Dallas Cowboys, I think they're probably deepest. Where would you say? I think you could say the whole defensive line. If you lump ends, and I know we already did our video there, but if you lump ends and tackles together, you can make a very, very strong argument that the deepest position group on the Dallas Cowboys, the deepest phase of the Dallas Cowboys roster as a whole, is along the defensive line. It used to be offensive line, used to be wide receiver. Those days have come and gone, and things have changed, circumstances have changed. But ultimately, I think defensive line deserves a little bit more love than maybe it's getting from a conventional standpoint. But that is our conversation and our assessment of the Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle group. Like I said, we've been kind of flip-flopping, hopscotching from offense to defense. We did running backs last. We did defensive tackles now. That means we're going back to the offensive side of the ball. And up next in our discussion will be the wide receivers, the aforementioned no longer deepest part of the roster. Very, very interested to see who we think makes it, because that is maybe where the most interesting position battles are going to be happening, roster battles specifically. So I wide receivers coming your way later on in the coming days. But for now, my name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me all over the place on Twitter and Instagram at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. If email's more your speed, RJ.Ochoa at SBNation.com is how you can find me. But for now, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We'll see you next time.